Welcome to our second Warrior Talk series we're building that is on our YouTube channel for sharing and viewing later. My name is Rod Schultz, Senior Director of Engagement and Advancement, also known as the Alumni Office. We are pleased that you can attend or viewing this seminar. Early next week, I'll send out a follow-up email to those in attendance, including a discount coupon at the Waldorf bookstore. I also want to showcase our next Warrior Talk on August 27th by Jan Rosdale 1972 class, showcasing Norwegian immigration and sharing stories about her past relatives on that first documented ship to the U.S. 200 years ago last summer. She knows a few things. She's got some great photographs. Tonight, we have the pleasure of Jeff Butcher leading us. After the 45-minute presentation or so, we'll do a Q&A for about 15 minutes. So we all think we know what AI is, but do we? I think it's a moving train, and it puzzles everybody that I talk to. You've seen the promotion for this, but I'm going to read Jeff's bio. Jeff Butcher is a crisis systems architect and innovation leader. We're pleased that Jeff was a Waldorf senior education partner for fire emergency management, safety, and public relations programs, current MBA student, and he's on our fire advisory board. Jeff has over 25 years of experience designing resilient systems in high-stakes environments, including emergency response operations serving over 10,000 constituents, AI-enabled training platforms deployed across over 20 facilities, specializes in AI integration and automation, building machine learning models, trading algorithms, intelligent training platforms that deliver measurable competitive advantage. Jeff also works at the intersection of technology, operations, and strategy, developing AI-driven solutions for complex systems. With that, Jeff, please take it away.
Well, thank you. Let me pull up my slides while I start getting everything around here for you guys.
Sounds good.
One thing to know about my slideshows is that when I do anything, I try to show you exactly how AI is used. And so this slideshow that you're going to look at was developed last night by my AI agents. So everything that you're going to see is developed, created by AI itself, so that you guys can kind of see some of the technology in place and what you can do with it. So if there's some mistakes in it, I tried to leave it as raw as I could so that you guys could really see what this really is about. The introduction was great, but when you learn about me, is that I was a firefighter paramedic, and I saw the first VR systems come out, and I got really excited because I thought, man, we can use this for education and training for our firefighters. And the problem is that back then I got so excited there was no computers or anything out there that could actually run the systems. So I sent a thing in and got approved for the very first Oculus headset, and which is the first VR headset that was made. And as a developer, they sent it to me. I was so excited, but no computer would run it. So then I had to learn how to build a computer. So I built a computer, I hooked this thing up, and then there was no programs on it. So then I had to make a program. And that's kind of how this journey got started. My first program was terrible. It was vomit-inducing. But what we did is I was trying to teach paramedics and firefighters how to work with people with autism. And so what we did is I created a scenario where they put on a headset and they're sitting in a coffee shop and they got to feel what it was like to truly be autistic. So I amplified all the sounds around them and changed the whole environment, and it changed the way that the firefighters received that information. And for the first time, I saw a light bulb pop on some of my students' heads saying, oh, this is why they tell us to do X, Y, and Z. And then we connected that with having a parent come in and having her talk about how she calms her son down. when he's and stressed out or in environments that he's not used to. And so as we started working through this, the next thing I started seeing was AI. So this was around, I think it was around 2016 by this time. And I started working with AI at that time. And my idea was I was just going to build a personal assistant, and which was really ambitious, being a firefighter. And so I built out in Python my first AI program, and it was absolutely terrible. But I kept working on it, and then I started to develop things that could actually write and build. And since then, I've been on a nonstop track of learning AI and utilizing it in my daily life. Because what you'll find with AI is that by incrementally putting it into the places where you have repetitive, boring task, you'll find that you open up time for life, time for other people, and time for whatever it is that you're passionate about. And that's really what I want to hopefully get across as we talk about some of this. Is new technology is scary, and AI has the potential to be very scary and do some crazy things. But on the other side of it is that it also has the potential to make us better humans. Because when we take away the office where somebody's sitting in their office and they're filling out paperwork instead of being with their people and being on the floor helping and managing people face to face, then are we truly managing, or are we filling out paperwork? And that's where AI can come into this. And sorry if you hear my dog, he's wearing jingle bells for some reason right now. So he might be coming in and out. But so the goal tonight is basically I want to just start at the very basic level, talk about what AI is in a very limited version of it, and then talk about what this means for the future and how this will impact people's lives. I think that's a good spot to start, because once we get to that intersection of understanding that, then it's easier for you to take off and build up into other AI and start to go and explore it for yourself. And hopefully throughout the night, as we're talking through this, that you'll also get a chance to see some of the ways that AI could be used that you probably have not thought about. So let's jump in here. I want to start with a very simple point, is that I want you guys to really think about the AI that you've came in contact with before you even got onto this meeting tonight. And the reason I ask you that is because AI has secretly came into our lives, and you probably don't realize how much AI is actually around you and interacting with you at this moment as it is. So things like search results. AI has been driving search results for things like YouTube videos and that based on what you're interested in, and the whole goal of the algorithm is just to keep you watching more videos. In some ways, that's really good. In other ways, because now you get to see things that you're interested in, but in other ways, it's radicalizing a lot of people, because they're to get you to keep watching. It takes you down that rabbit hole just a little deeper each time to keep your interest in that. The other way that it's affected you is your streaming services. If you're have Netflix, it's looking at what you watched, whether you like that, and how long you watched it, and then it recommends more videos and different things for you. Email filters have actually been one of the best ways that AI's affected us that we don't think about, is all those spam emails that you used to get that were in your email box. Tons of them are being sifted out and taken apart. The other piece that's running is your bank alerts, is the AI's watching so that when you're spending money, it knows exactly where your normal places are and what you're doing, so that when somebody steals your information, it can instantly stop that and call you and contact you and say, hey, this isn't like you. This isn't your normal behaviors. And then there's also social feeds, where now it's starting to affect our social feeds and what we see, how we're using those things, and what we what we want to communicate with and who we're not comfortable with communicating with. So it's got a lot of control in the background of the things that you just don't realize necessarily that are happening right now. And one of the things that's very important for you to think about is this idea of how AI has kind of come into our lives. And if you look at how AI has slowly worked in through all of our stuff, is that it starts out with overcoming and taking on tasks. So it finds little roles like this. Maybe it starts out with you go on to Chat GPT, you type in, hey, write this email for me, and it corrects an email. Well, then you're like, well, while you're there, why don't you clean up all my spam email? And then you start thinking, well, while you're there, if somebody emails me and I'm not around, but I want to let them know that that they're important and that I want to respond to them, I want you just send them a quick email that says I'm looking into this, or I can give it a little database where it can know my common responses for my work and can respond quickly to allow people to get more information and stuff. So now all of a sudden we went from AI that just is doing tasks to these workflows. And then slowly, what's happening right now is that now that we have workflows, and these workflows are being done by AIs that are separate, that are specialized in one area. So one AI might be good at writing emails, and another AI might be really good at cleaning out your spam. Another AI might be good at reading your emails and determining whether you need a response. And these are individual AIs with these little tasks that they can do are called agents. And when we put a bunch of agents together, suddenly they can do workflows, which means like if I have an AI that can read my emails and determine what the email's about and whether it knows enough about how to respond, it can hand it off to either the email writing AI to write in response back, because it might be a simple question that we already have the answer to, or it can say, oh, this is spam, and it can call the spam robot to come and erase that email for him. And so now once we get to AI agents, which is where we're at right now, they can start to build into roles. And when we get into roles, it's a lot like how we do our jobs, is when we put 100 or more of these AI agents together with all these little tasks, suddenly we're able to complete full jobs and or take care of big chunks of time, which normally would have taken us hours to do, and that can do it automatically or within 10 minutes in the morning before you even know what's going on. So important for you to kind of think about these tasks, workflows, and roles, because we'll talk a little bit about them and what that means in the future as we move on. So in plain language, artificial intelligence kind of refers to those computer systems that can perform tasks that normally require some form of human-like intelligence, that can include like recognizing patterns, learning from data, adjusting to new information, making predictions, generating content, or helping with decisions. And where it's a little bit different is traditional software follows exact rules. So we write a rule and we say, okay, I want you to do this, then I want you to do this, then I want you to do that. Whereas AI is going to say, we take a bunch of data, we drop it into the system, and then the AI looks for patterns. And then it starts to say, what percentage do you think that this pattern matches to what we're trying to figure out? And that's where it starts to really do things that are unique. That's where, in plain language, it starts to estimate the percentage of what you're going to do or what the next answer is. And it can start to generate out real information, kind of almost like a human. That's where this artificial intelligence comes from, because now it's not just following a scheme. It's now starting to think and follow patterns based on the percentages of the next best thing that would be like. And that means a couple things, is people tend to think that AI is one thing. Like they'll say, oh, I use ChatGPT to write my email. Well, that's great, but that's only one type of AI. There's actually a few types of AI. We have the conversational AIs that most people know about, the ones that write their emails, that they can talk to, that they can do numerous things with, and that's going to be your conversational. They're also called large language models. We have the ones that can generate media right now. And so those are the ones that, like, as you're seeing right here, it created this image on the screen behind, and it created all this, but it created that image from scratch. And then it put it into this because it thought that this image was the perfect image to demonstrate whatever I was talking about on this slide. And then it also has ones that do recommendation systems. So those are the things that are hidden in a lot of stuff. And those are some of the things that scare me the most right now, because as recommendation systems get better, we'll start to ask ourselves, at what point are we deciding things for ourselves, and what point is AI subtly influencing us into the decisions that we're making? And that's kind of where we start to see people we're starting to see this divergent of people that have become more extreme or more deep into their beliefs because they're being, not maliciously, but they're being shown and taken down these pathways. And then we also have automation and agents, and those aren't necessarily one thing different, but they're usually a collection of agents that are based off of the other three categories, where they're really good at doing one thing. And so we take, maybe ChatGPT is really good at doing research, and then maybe we need Gemini to create a image for us, and then we use Notebook LLM to take our notes from ChatGPT, take the images that we generated, and make out audio, like a podcast, or to make out a short video that teaches us better sometimes than we can teach ourselves. So what I want you guys to kind of understand from this point is that it's a family of technologies that are showing up in different tools, and it's growing and expanding because agents now are not just these simple systems. They're all these things that are mixed in, and now we're adding in tools and giving them the capacity to do the things that we do. So what's the difference between traditional software versus AI? Well, traditional software is more like a recipe card. It follows exact steps, where the AI is more like a student that has studied a bunch of examples and then tries to apply. It's AI is more like let me back up here because I totally messed that up. But traditional software is more like a recipe. So you pull up the recipe, you follow the steps, you measure the right ingredients, you put them into the bowl, you mix them the right way, you put it in the oven at the right temperature, and you got chocolate chip cookies the same way. And every time, if you follow that recipe exactly the same way, you're going to get chocolate chip cookies. Sometimes they're a little bit more burnt, sometimes they're a little soft, but for the most part, they're chocolate chip cookies. Where AI is more like a student that has studied a bunch of examples, and then tries to apply what he or she's learned, and to do something new with it. So AI, we're going to dump a bunch of data and information into, and then we're going to have the AI find those patterns and come up with new ways of doing things. And this is generally a great pathway to go, because if you think about programming, is that we can teach an AI, we can drop a bunch of stuff in, and it can say, hey, the percentage that this is the right thing to program next is the right step, and 90% of the time it's outdoing our normal code writers today, because it's able to see those patterns and do that. Where it's not good at doing stuff is that it doesn't necessarily comprehend those and understand it in a human way. It doesn't understand like the success and failures because it doesn't have a long-term memory, at least not yet. It has some memory and some things, but it's not learning from itself each time. It only learns once it's retrained over and over. So that's kind of the difference between traditional and artificial intelligence. So now we talk about, we understand how AI is, we kind of understand, get a little bit of better idea of what AI is good at, and now we need to start to think about why it's suddenly accelerating or feels like everything is moving super, super fast. And that's because we are doing 4 important things that are driving this to go extremely fast, and each step that we take and each little improvement we give increases the intelligence and gives it more ability. So one of the things that it's getting is more data. And why it's getting more data is the original AIs were all trained on just social media. So they had no academic papers, they had nothing, anything else other than YouTube videos, Twitter accounts, stuff like that. So it was just looking for language. Well, now it's starting to get into the point where it's starting to digest real data and research papers and get into more deeper thinking. And at the same time, it's also being utilized by people to do research. So as they're doing the research, it's all that information staying within that AI, and then that AI, when it goes back and gets trained, all that data trains the next model, and the model learns from the data that it got from all the people using it for research and academic purposes and all those. The other big thing that you're seeing is more compute. So when you think about compute is the GPU, or the graphic processing unit, is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's the same processing unit that we use for video games to make them show up better on our computers. Well, now that's using that same technology to help the AI to think faster and better. And what's happening, why you're seeing all these data farms popping up, is because when you use AI, most of the time, unless you have a really good computer and you're really knowledgeable, then the AI is going to be offline into one of these farms. So when you call ChatGPT, you're actually going to a data storage area, and that storage area has a ton of GPUs that are just set there to run and compute what you need it to compute. And that compute is driving the models to get faster and be able to handle more and more information at once. Then the next thing, the algorithms are getting better, and they're getting better because it's not humans that are creating these AI algorithms that are making them think better. It's the AIs themselves are actually becoming more and more efficient. Each time that they upgrade and have it train on all the data that it had before, they have now more data to train from. They have more access and more people using it, so the algorithms are learning to be better and more complex, more efficient. And then lastly, we have access. And before, when I started, you had to be somewhat knowledgeable in Python. You had to have a pretty good computer. You had to have a database, a ton of storage for these, and it would barely give you anything. But nowadays, any person can get online and find an AI chatbot and start utilizing one basically just by typing in words. And some of them you can just talk to, and you don't even need to be good at typing. So it's bringing in more access to more users, and all these things coming together are creating this unique interface that we have right now. And the issue is that right now, every 6 months, all the knowledge that we've accumulated through all of human years is being doubled about every 6 to 8 months because AI is moving so fast. So when you think about that, if you are still, using a program from, let's say, 2024. And you're using a program from 24, that's the equivalent of you using technology from the 1950s today. So a lot of people are now being split slowly apart because there's some people like me that are on the edge of AI that are building all sorts of stuff, and I'm getting to the point where nothing is out of my reach. And on the other end of it, we have somebody who has just learned today how to type in and say, hey, write this email for me. And there's a huge gap that most people don't realize in that, because if I'm exponentially able to work and do more stuff every day exponentially, if I'm able to learn more things exponentially, and I'm able to create more things exponentially, then any person that's not at my level, as long as I stay accumulating and working with AI, they'll never be able to capture me with a knowledge base. So that is kind of another shocking thing to think about, is that we are jumping so quick and so fast with this with AI, and that is why the world just suddenly seems like everything is changing almost daily. Excuse me. So that comes down to our new interface is language. You don't have to know how to code anymore to ask AI for help. And now generative AI has changed its interface, and people can basically type in, help me write this email, explain this topic, and they're able to instantly jump into this without knowing much about it and start to get some type of use out of it. Where this is going in the next few years is that it's going to start to transition away from what we call prompting. Prompting's the questions and the way that you write them in, and it's going to start to get to a point where it prompts us. Because AI, one of the biggest weaknesses in AI still is that AI is not able, it has all the knowledge in the world, but it's not able sometimes to give us the answers that we need because we are in our own way. So think about it this way. Imagine that you are an AI and you're in a little black room. It's pitch black in there. You have nothing but a computer on your desk. And up in the corner, there's a little speaker. And somebody says, what's the capital of Michigan? And so you type in your little keyboard and you say, what's the capital of Michigan? And the computer comes back and says, Lansing. And you say, Lansing. And everybody says, wow, this AI is really cool. This is so amazing. And it is cool because it's got all the information from the internet and all this information it can dig into. But then what happens is somebody comes on and they say, what did I eat for lunch last night? And you're sitting there in this black room. You have no idea who's asking you the question. You might be able to tell maybe it's a male or female, but that's about it. And so you say, well, I think they're in Michigan, in Lansing, and they had dinner last night. It was nice. The average Michigan male who eats dinner on Tuesday nights is tacos. And so that says, I think you had tacos and salsa and guacamole, blah, blah, blah. Well, now that person gets mad and they say, well, that's racist, or that's so bad. Like, how did that not know that? Well, the answer isn't that the AI messed up and that the AI gave you a bad answer. The truth is that AI is reflective of the human asking it questions. So if you have the right questions and you ask it right, then the AI is going to give you good, solid information. But if you ask bad information, or you don't know necessarily what those questions are, and you don't seek and work through that with the AI, then you're going to get information that's reflective back, like answers to your questions that are reflective of your own ignorance, I guess, of those things. Does that make sense? So it's something to think about. Is I hear a lot of people say, well, AI is wrong. AI is giving me bad answers. AI is doing this. AI is hallucinating. And a lot of this stuff all goes back to the questions that are going into it and who's writing those questions. So keep that in the back of your mind, kind of also as we talk through some of this. So let's talk about what AI is now. AI really has not become the thing that we will have someday. It's not the thing that only people in Silicon Valley that are really rich have. It's here. It's within our ordinary lives. It's in our ordinary work, and it's changing how we do everything. Communication. Think about how AI is changing communication, and probably most people don't think about it, but now a huge amount of younger people are actually being counseled by AI. And at first, when we think about that, we think, oh my gosh, that's horrible. But on the other side of it is, if AI is able to talk to somebody who's too scared or nervous or worried about the stigma of being suicidal, and AI can help them, is that a bad thing? I don't know. In fact, one of my projects was that I wrote an AI that could call firefighters. It would interview them, and then based upon that interview, it would look for things that might show them that they have PTSD, that they have suicidal tendencies, that they could be aggressive or hurt somebody at work, and then it would call back that person with another AI that was trained to be cognitive therapy, like the talk. And the only idea of that AI was to talk that person into seeking help. And then when they agree to seek help, it connects them to the right psychologist or living person, right now, and helps them get set up with an appointment and kind of helps them overcome that stigma. And nobody at their workplace knows that, that they're suicidal. And it alleviates a lot of the stresses and barriers that people are coming into with psychological care. But if you look at AI and say, should AI be a psychologist for somebody? No. But can AI be a bridge to psychologists and self-help? Yes. Can AI help in education? Right now, most educators look at AI and they say, well, AI is helping people to be cheat. AI is not allowing people to critically think anymore. But when you flip this around, in education for a paramedic program, I created an AI that the students would call. And the whole idea is that they had to effectively connect with the patient. They had to emotionally connect to that patient and get their trust. If they could get the trust of the patient, then the patient would tell them what was wrong. And if they couldn't, then they wouldn't get the right diagnosis for the patient. So the patient was a 16-year-old female that was involved in a car accident, and she had abdominal pain. If the paramedic that was a student that was talking to her connected with her, then the AI would say, yep, they've connected with me emotionally, they've taken their time, they've made me feel comfortable. It would tell them that she was pregnant and was having abdominal pains before the accident. If it did not, then the patient would stop talking and cloud up, and then the paramedic student would come back and say, yeah, the patient had abdominal trauma from a car accident. So, and also in education, this is a huge equalizer for people with disabilities. As a dyslexic myself, this would have been a huge asset to me, especially when most of the education system has went to full sentence reading and has skipped over the phonics pieces that I needed as a dyslexic student. If I would have had this, This actually still to this day helps me to think and work through a lot of the stuff I'm doing, because it helps me to actually understand what the words mean when I get confused or they get a little bit clouded up. It also can take education and break it up into things that most people wouldn't be able to do. For example, taking a class that is, let's say, an EMR course or emergency medical responder course, and let's start that course out for somebody whose English is a second language. Let's start it out in their language, and then let's slowly integrate it into English as they go through the class, so that when that student might not be able to get in and take the first college courses that they like to, because they still have to be stuck learning English, getting up to English language where they can like take the education in their own way. Now we can give them classes to get them started in their own language and use those exact classes to build up their ability to work through that. And I think what's important for educators, and why a lot of educators dismiss AI, is that a lot of educators have forgot that real education is hard. And where real education becomes hard is that you need to be pushed intellectually. And the original orientation of education was Plato would sit his students down, or Socrates, I can't remember which one, I'm not a great philosophy major, but he'd sit their students down and they would ask questions and get feedback. And imagine now that we have a system that can actually prompt students and push them and teach them in the exact ways that they need, and base it all off of where they stand on that educational goals and objectives. So they understand where they're standing on that objective, and that some students might need to work faster, some students might be slower. But instead of one person sitting up and educating them with a PowerPoint in front like I'm doing to you now, it would be an individual process that's built completely on what you need at that moment in the way that you need it. Business operations. We're seeing business operations change completely, because now we're starting to look into and understand the hows and whys things are happening, instead of it just being these quick decisions of, oh, well, this happened today, well, let's just go ahead and do this because I think. Instead of that, we're actually able to dig into that business operation on a minute scale and really understand what went wrong, and then build out processes that are very complex in a way that everybody works. So example, right now, if a business wants to bring in a new information management system, what they would do is they'll look at it and they'll say, well, this is really great for our outreach team, and this is really great for our teachers. But maybe it's not so good for the students. Maybe that system is not good for your other departments, like your finance department. And so we have to pick these information systems that work for maybe one or two departments. Well, with AI in the picture, we can develop our own information systems without paying a ton of money within a short amount of time that can meet everybody's needs within that organization and can adapt continuously to as things go, instead of us using these broke systems that have multiple like kind of patchwork things, or we're buying 3 or 4 subscriptions for 3 different things that don't interact and they don't work for us, but we use them because it's good for Joe Blow and human resources, but not good for anybody else in the organization. And you can see how all these things are now being implemented and changed by AI. Hiring, we're able to sort through our people quicker and quicker. Creativity, decision support, all these things are changing. So now we're starting to see that this is also coming into our shift at work, and it's helping to kind of pick up the pace of drafting, summarizing, research, customer service, scheduling, all those bad jobs that we really didn't want to do or we've been having trouble with. Suddenly it's able to take on those positions and improve them and give us time to get back to managing the people that we actually are hired to manage. So AI can add to learning or subtract from it. We kind of talked about this, how it can personalize support. It can offer tutoring and feedback and accessible explanations. For Waldorf, imagine having a chat bot in every class that could instantly answer questions from the class when the student gets confused. And if they're working at 3 a.m. because they're a nighttime worker and they want to do their homework at 3 a.m., they can have access to a tutor at 3 a.m. and get instant feedback. But on the other side, it creates cheating shortcuts, over reliance, and thinking skills sometimes aren't practiced, especially if the instructor doesn't know how to use those things. So this is the question that I get asked almost everywhere I go is, when is AI coming for my job? And I think when this goes back to that original question that we had before, and that is that we can see warning signs that are coming and be able to change our path and make our jobs more secure by understanding the warning signs. And we go back to that idea of task, workflows, roles. So the very first thing that will see AI when it starts to come into our area will be it will come for tasks. So it's going to take over those repetitive, those language heavy, data heavy, rules-based and high-volume things within your job. And so what you need to start thinking about is, can a computer, if I was at home working on a computer, could a computer do, what could it do of my job? Could it do the whole thing? Then you might be a little bit more worried. But if you see it can do these other things, then you can start to look at and say, what things as it's coming into and where would I see it enter my workplace first that will give me my first warning sign. And then what you would do is you'd work through that and say, okay, so once it gets to this task, this would allow it to do this. And so you start to see a 1 to 3 year process that's going to take shape with, and if it was going to take your job or it was going to change your role. So year 1, you'd see it start getting embedded into daily tools. Year 2, you'd start to see workflows changing around the AI. So now you see AI starting to run the implementation or the information management systems. You start to see it running more and more of your workplace and connecting to do a bunch of things at once. And then year 3 is when it starts to reshape those roles. And where the year 3 is where we're actually seeing an impact to our work. And what I tell people is that if you want to make sure that your role is safe, that when you start seeing it taking over tasks and doing workflows, that you should be working on those things that you already understand what AI can really do good within your job and what AI can't do within your job, and become really excellent at doing those things that AI can't, while also focusing in on the things that that will change those, like that you can utilize to save you time and to jump ahead in other roles. So these are just some of the signs that AI might be changing your field as a whole. So you see it in job postings. You'll see normal software has AI features. You probably already see most of these things. Entry-level work starts changing. Output expectations rise because now all of a sudden you got somebody who's using AI and they're able to do twice the workload that you are, but they never seem busy. So now we start to see some of these things coming into our workplace, and so it's our place to start planning. So this is what you should plan, is break your job into tasks. First, figure out where it's going to come in, what you can do, what you can't. Learn one AI tool. The one thing that will help keep you competitive with your workforce and also allow you to get more time to do the things that AI can't do. practice on that low risk work first. So maybe it's just having AI look through your emails and delete spam messages. That might be a good space. Or maybe it's having AI write your email responses to give you a little bit more time, but you're checking them over. And then the last thing is to build that human judgment. And what I'm saying by human judgment is be a good human. Learn how to take care of other humans, and you'll always have a job. Because AI is really good on all this other stuff, but the one skill that we're going to need the most in the future is to be a good human. So this is kind of what businesses are going to look at. They're going to look at the promise and the price. So they get productivity, they get learning access, creativity, small team capabilities, but there might be some biases in it, misinformation, privacy, and over-reliance concerns that they right now are kind of weighing. But that price is getting less and less because they're identifying those things and working on them to make them better every day. Just remember, though, that the AI can generate an answer, but it can't own the consequences of that answer. And that still belongs to the human. So we always still have that human piece into it. And where AI is going to take most of our jobs or change most of our stuff is that it's going to allow people to almost be superhuman in how much they can get done in a day, when all of a sudden all these forms and all this data and everything actually comes together and allows us to make good decisions and use our time a little bit better. So I wrote this kind of the AI readiness plan. We already talked about it, but go through, become curious, because that's going to be a new career skill, and learn the basics. Try one tool, test a task, and then verify whether that came out the way you wanted it. And then make sure that you keep the human piece of us in charge. So always keep a human in the loop as you do this, but it's a good way for you to experiment and get into AI. So, like I said before, the future kind of belongs to those who are adaptable, who are willing to learn and experiment and verify, and then take on that human to human love and characteristics. And because ultimately where this leads to is that when we take out work, we take out everything else, it's going to come down to that we are going to be humans taking care of humans. And that, I think, is the most powerful point of AI, is that it's taking away all that garbage that's clouding all of our lives up and allowing us to come back to a time when we can just take care of each other and think about each other and actually really focus in on the most important parts of our lives. So that's kind of my spiel for today, but I'll kind of open this up to questions. Let me stop sharing this here.
Yep, that's good. And so thank you, Jeff. That was very insightful. Yeah, I have questions. Before we do the Q&A, and I'll shut down the recording, I just want to remind everybody this is recorded, and it'll be on the YouTube channel for our Warrior Talks. Jeff, I do hope all goes well as you complete your Waldorf MBA by this fall, and see what's next. And hopefully we'll be on that timeline in the near future, as well as a visit to campus. And it reminded me there at the very end when Ted Lasso and say, be curious. But now I'm going to add, Ted Lasso says, be curious, and Jeff Butcher said, be a good human.